Good morning. Welcome to first episode of the Clarity Corner. A few years since we did Coffee and Capital was our last podcast.
It has been a few years.
It's been a while. I'm Tristan Jacoby. This is our resident, Mr. Hal Carmine, and we're going to chat a little bit about the business today and what separates creative wealth management from other firms that may or may not operate in a similar capacity to us, and what we enjoy so much about what we do.
Awesome. However, I'd like to start with the new baby. How's everybody making out?
Fantastic. Happy, healthy, busy. Every night's a new treat. Coin flip on how much sleep you're going to get, whether it's 1 hour, 4 or 5 in a night, but we can't complain. Very, very lucky. And Marissa's doing well, healthy, recovered, and he's almost too long for the bassinet already.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he keeps wiggling and touching one edge or the other. So they say, 6 months is how long
it's been a while for me, so I don't know.
I don't think he's going to make it 6 months in the bassinet.
In the bassinet. Awesome.
So good problems to have there.
Are you guys ready for number 2?
Yeah, bring it on.
Would Marissa have a different answer to that question?
We'll certainly have a different answer to that question. Well, we'll kind of jump right into it. I think the first question is a real good foundational one that we have for you specifically is what inspired you to start creative wealth management and, kind of more so build it into what it is today?
That is a great question. I would like to say it continues to evolve even as we go now. I think you've been here a long time and you've seen the evolution of everything. We always try to stay 5 years ahead of where the industry is going in terms of innovation, client service, and things like that. So I think it will always continue to evolve. You see a lot of firms get stuck out there, not just in the financial world, but in every industry that stay stagnant and don't evolve what the marketplace wants, needs, or demands out there. But many of you know I started in this business right out of college back in end of 1999. Last century, working for a large corporate firm in Philadelphia. From there, knew the corporate life really wasn't for me. It was fun up there in the city and everything, but most of my clients were back down in Delaware or on the Eastern Shore in Maryland. So I went out kind of in a semi-independent firm with some gentlemen that a couple of them actually grew up with that were in the business as well, and really enjoyed that from there. We eventually branched out and down here in Berlin, Maryland, and probably about 2009, 2010 was doing very well in the business. But there was always this feeling in me that the client aspect, the client service model, and how everything should operate should be client-centric. And I didn't feel like we were necessarily doing that. And I had this vision that everything should be centered around the client's needs, the client's wants, in this customer service model or client service model where they enjoyed stopping by or enjoyed being in meetings. And when we met with them, we loved learning about their family, hearing updates, and essentially we do life with them. And I felt that was really lacking. So when we opened in 2011, that was the focus, to really drive home the clients are the center of this picture, not the company. And that's why I wanted to go independent. And then the evolution of that going into our own RIA or registered investment advisor, reporting directly to the regulators and not having anyone above us to dictate, hey, you can do this or you can't do this. We want to always do the right thing. And I don't want any hindrance to that whatsoever. And all of that should be client driven.
I think the segue is nice into our next and part of the question is, how would we describe the type of clients we're looking to work with here at Creative Wealth Management? The type of clients that we want to spend with every day, and how you mentioned before, go about life together, right? How would you describe that type of client?
Well, 2 specific characteristics that stand out is our clients that engage us, they are advice-seeking, actively engaged. And what I mean by that is they value advice, and they specifically value the advice we give them, not just on investments or retirement planning, but all aspects, whether it's business succession planning. Hey, should I buy or lease this vehicle? I'm buying a piece of real estate. Are the numbers going to work if I rent it out? Should I finance it? Should I pay cash? What type of loan should I do? And all of those things. So they are advice seeking, fully engaged. They take full advantage of that.
Yeah. Yep.
For sure. Again, not to get too in the weeds here, but one of the reasons when I set this up on separating out the financial planning from the investment management is I wanted the clients and the households and the families to see that bill and feel that bill every month coming out of their checking account or however they bill it. I did not want to bill it from their investment accounts because they really wouldn't see it. They know it's there, but they wouldn't feel it. Because every month that they see that fee coming out, to know, hey, what am I paying for? Oh yeah, I'm paying for these services, and they feel it's worth it. And at any time they feel it's not, then we have an issue on our side as well. Are we not providing the services that you expect? Are we not living up to the standard? Or do you just not need those services and we need to come up with some type of different structure for them?
Right.
On that.
Absolutely. Engaging is a good word there. Sometimes occasionally you get a client saying, hey, I don't mean to bug you, right? If they're in a financial planning relationship, it's like, you're not bugging at all. This is what we want. We want you to reach out. We want you to ask these questions about a situation that you never would have thought that you would be going to your financial planner to ask.
Absolutely.
Right? That's what we're looking for on these. And going back to the type of clients as well, advice seeking. I have found every year that I go through this business a little bit more that I'm finding very successful people just out in the world tend to be advice seeking, right? It's very rare that you come across somebody that's very successful, regardless of the industry, that has not at least morphed into some type of advice seeking person, whether they want to admit it or not, right? Because I think, everybody at some point hits that roadblock. Even if you have the highest IQ of anybody in the room, you realize, hey, this is complex, and I probably shouldn't be going at this alone. I could, but I shouldn't, right? And I think that that lends itself to a type of client. Now, we are still very selective with who we bring on too, because
yes,
we'll say this quite frankly, is we want to wake up and enjoy who we work with, right, on a daily basis. I think that it's been a huge part for a number of years of, why you want to wake up and go to work today, right? Is because you get to meet with, do a plan for, answer questions of somebody you simply put, enjoy spending time with, right? Or talking about whatever, even if it has nothing to do with finances. So, being selective with our clients has helped us build out a group that is, just simply put, fantastic to be around.
Yeah, you're 100% right on that. I will say in the early days of building the business back in the early 2000s, or, building client base, that wasn't always the case. Not that I took someone on that I knew it would just be miserable, but you would search hard for something to maybe like about them, and you think, hey, I'm really going to enjoy this. And then you realize, hey, it's not worth it. And that's okay. You're not going to clash, or you're not going to mesh well with everyone. And that could be on our side too. Maybe they just didn't like my personality, the way I went about things, and that's okay. We can part as friends.
I'm a Cowboys fan.
Oh, jeez. We'll tell that story later of how I found that out after you got hired. But you're right. Coming in every day, no matter who's on the schedule, and knowing that you're looking forward to meeting with them, hearing updates about their kids or grandkids or spouse or various life events, or even the vacation they went on. Because we spend so much time, I think the phrase you used is we do life with them. Yeah. And that's true. And we enjoy that immensely. And they want to know what's happening in our life. I love that relationship. I do not want a transactional relationship at all with any of the households or families that we work with. A few years back, which is probably 10 years, it goes so quick now. I remember being at one of our annual events and looking out, and one of the tables had not only multiple generations kind of up and down, from client to grandparents down to kids, grandkids, even great grandkids, but it went left and right. It went to brothers, sisters, aunts, in-laws across this huge table. And I really love that because then you get to see the whole picture of how that family's connected and work with them. And it's
Well,
amazing.
and nothing feels better too than, let's say there's a client that's been with us for a number of years and XYZ situation popped up and maybe their son or daughter finally reached out to engage us in whatever capacity they've got. Maybe they should have in the past because they, didn't need a planner, but whatever event happened, they finally engaged us and they've probably heard from their parents talking about us for a number of years. And
Mm-hmm.
they might have said, okay, yes, we've heard about your advisor. We've heard about this and that. And then when they finally meet us and do some work with us, you can tell that there's something that clicks, like a genuine bit of surprise that they're like, okay, this is actually awesome. They are actually a great group to work with. They are just on top of it. And to watch that spread out, you're right down the line and left and right, whether it's aunts, uncles, however that family's built out. To me, that's the coolest part, right? Is that surprise? Because I think, everybody at some point hears from their grandparents or their parents, hey, my advisor, this or my accountant, you got to work with them. And we're all you're going to be skeptical, right? Of the previous generation's advisor. They're going to think that they do things their way, their old school way. They don't understand what's going on now. And then they meet us, which we've got a good group here too of spread across multiple generations and can interact. So,
well, to go back, if someone asked the question, well, then what are the qualifications to become a client? I always like to say when a referral comes across or wants to schedule, come in, interview us, and we'll interview you. And yes, or they say, well, what's the minimum amount? Things like that. And that's a common question in our industry. And while, our fees are at a certain level that would necessitate a certain net worth or liquid net worth or planning needs, it really comes down to, are we going to get along?
Yeah.
Are we going to enjoy this journey together? And that goes for both us and them. They could come in and say, I really don't like you guys and gals. And that's okay.
Yeah. And we need them to understand, whatever advice, suggestions, recommendations, whatever point we're trying to get any client to understand, we've got to mesh well for that to even be a possibility. Right. And if that is, you can tell, I mean, we've all met people that for whatever reason, you're just, the waves are not there. The brain waves are not there. We're not connecting in any way, shape, or form. Then it's just not going to work.
Yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah.
We don't want to waste their time and we don't want to waste our time, certainly. And our time would get wasted as if over that initial period, we're not building a certain level of trust where we're giving recommendations and then they don't take them. And we see it over and over, yet the issue or problem that they're facing and trying to solve does not get better and gets worse.
Yeah.
Then that would be something where we say, hey, if you're not going to implement these things, we can't be of use to you. There's no reason to pay us to help if you're not going to take that advice. So,
and maybe somebody else at a different firm could speak their language and
absolutely
click for them. I mean, we're not for everybody, right? Not everybody's going to enjoy how me or you phrase something or our philosophy surrounding a certain financial topic or just general approach, but that's okay.
Yeah. And I'm a big believer in as long as one thing is met, there really is no competition. I consider everybody a colleague in our industry. As long as the best thing is being done for the client, they're accomplishing their goals. Okay, good. Whether they do that with us or another firm, that's fine.
Yeah. Accomplish the goals. That's a big thing. We're taking on new clients too, right? Typically we're referral only from existing clients or trusted outside professionals that we work with. Very occasionally we'll interview somebody that found us online, a website or a different route. That's where we've definitely got to make sure we're going to have a good relationship with them because that's just, I don't want to say outside the bubble, but it's outside of our existing client base. We've worked so hard for so many years to build up that group that we mentioned before that we just love and enjoy working with that, but occasionally we do find somebody that,
Yeah, and
you know,
it takes maybe a few more meetings there to get to know each other
yeah,
and start to build a rapport and build a level of trust. I will say that has ticked up since our new head of marketing has been here,
yeah,
Miss Lexi, who's
yeah,
behind the screen here,
yeah,
and
fantastic job.
we have seen that. Now, you mentioned,
Which I like having that door open, right? Because, if there's going to be more people finding us in general, right, we're going to, perhaps it's a 50-50 shot that somebody does mesh well with
Mhm.
us from the outside. I'm not against it at all.
no,
Uh,
I'd like to see everybody be helped. We can't do that. So we want to make the most efficient use of our time and their time
yeah,
on that. But I did want to go back. You mentioned that we view our team the same way
yeah,
as we view the households that we want to work with and clients, is that we want to mesh well with everyone in this office.
yeah,
Um, and going back to when we started, I always envisioned a team that you love to come to work with, that developed into whatever their role is, the best at that role, that if something ever happened to me or they decide to leave, they could go get the best position anywhere they wanted at the best company. So the culture I've tried to create is one of, obviously, team, one of family, where family takes priority. Um, Give you guys a little inside look into here. We want the type of person where we don't have set number of vacation days or sick days, things like that. If you need to take off, take off. If you need to go to your kid's baseball game, go. Whatever it is, we don't want you to have to worry about, oh my gosh, I got to take off. Go. But that same type of person on this team understands that their role is critical, and they realize that someone else would have to do that work while they are gone. But the other people in here are happy to do that when everyone's committed to the team.
right.
Nobody minds picking that up when that's the case. So,
Well, and that in that itself produces, I think, unintentionally produces a well-rounded team member, regardless of what their specific role may be, right? We're not so compartmentalized that if Lexi's out, that, somebody didn't understand what she does at all,
right,
right? Which a lot of big firms out there, if somebody has a specific role and they're out,
nothing gets done.
nobody knows what that person's
Have you
doing
ever
at all.
experienced that before?
I've seen it a couple times. But no, we've got a great group here too. We've been fortunate with who's wandered in here and started working. Jordan, we got lucky with on the internship from Salisbury. And then, like I said, what Lexi's done with social media, marketing, and everything that goes with that is,
And the engagement.
yeah, well, yeah, everything that goes with that beyond what I could imagine,
Right.
which I obviously have a limited imagination with the marketing. But
Yeah, we've been very blessed in every role here, from Jordan to you to Lexi to Abby to Carol. Um, but that took me a while.
yeah,
Much like on how we take on clients in a deliberate manner, the same thing was true on how I hired, right? I just didn't want to hire 15 people and then throw them on the wall, see who sticks, and they're there. It took a lot of iterations,
right,
a lot of learning on my part, a lot of failing on my part with development, with leading, with figuring out personalities and things like that. And that's okay. I look back and think I'd still go through all of that to get to the point that I'm at now with the team that we have. Certainly.
yeah,
Um, Without a doubt.
and excited for the future and where things go with that as well, because we're always looking to expand. I don't think we're ever going to be ones to turn down talent in
No.
general, whatever your talents may be. I think we have enough flexibility in here that we're always looking to make ourselves better. And if somebody is talented, right, they're
Well, I
always
would
going to
say even
evolve.
more than talented is that they are hard workers, critical thinkers,
Well, yeah,
frankly, good people,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Um, you give me those three things, we'll plug them in and find a role. Because I
yeah.
think when you have that,
Well, and that person's going to expand out any role, like
correct.
Lexi's done, right? When we're how we're sitting here right now in January would I wouldn't have thought that we'd be in this spot right now in these chairs, and she's built out all this to this extent already,
Correct.
right? So, and that's because she has all these qualities that you just mentioned.
Mhm.
That person's going to naturally build that out.
Yes.
I do.
Yeah. We'll find a place and basically give them what they need and get out of the way and let them do their thing.
Right.
And we've certainly seen that with multiple people in here.
There's a question on here that I think parlays or how our just previous discussion parlays and is how do our different roles complement each other when guiding clients? I think that's a good one. Maybe not only specifically with you and me, but how Jordan and Carol, Alexia, the team interact with clients too. How would you see that from your top level view? How would you describe that?
Everyone's role here is critical in every part that they do. Whatever it is, they excel at it and they want to deliver the best that they can. And that contributes to the overall experience of that client and overall, just everything with
Right.
them, looking from that role. My role has certainly changed in the last 2 to 3 years. And that's mainly from your evolution to running the company now and me kind of taking a step back, meeting with just a few clients here and there. I try to stay out of the way as much as I can. Sometimes I like to get back in the weeds, but I just get in the way because I'm so far removed from that. But the most enjoyment for me comes from, at least on the firm side, is watching everybody on this team continue to develop and be successful. I get the most fulfillment out of that, above anything else.
Yeah.
So that's what I see from up top. So my role is to, obviously establish key partnerships with various firms that can assist our clients or plug in, but it's also to get each one of you everything that you need to be successful. Right. Mainly stay out of your way and give advice when you need it here and there. So it's, I don't want to get off on a tangent here, so don't forget what you were asking. But if I look back, when you came on board and then, that training process and how that went, right? Then the transition starts to happen and Jordan comes in and I watch you train her and I would crack up at the same time, hold myself back and be patient. Like, I wouldn't do it that way. I'd do it this different way. He's doing it this way, but I know your way's better, right? And if it wasn't and that you needed to change, I just had to stay out of that way and let you learn that and evolve. Then taking another step further, when you have to watch Jordan train others and watch you go through what I went through, then I just really laugh and crack up and enjoy that. But like I said, I find the most fulfillment out of that, developing leaders and watching them become successful way beyond their potential.
Yeah. Well, and this is me thinking that from a client's perspective, I think this is an accurate statement, is seeing different styles of how we, same general philosophy, but different styles of implementation or different styles of conversation with, most of our clients, even the ones that you work with mainly at this point, they're still interacting with Jordan and myself on a regular basis for whatever is needed. And I think that's great on the client side to see the same way tackled in 3 slightly different ways, right?
Absolutely.
But the tackle is still happening, right? The tackle is getting done. And then also for clients knowing that, we say it when new clients come on board, it's, hey, Tristan might be your point person or Jordan might be your point person or Hal might be your point person, but everything is done with a group behind the scenes, right? I might be the one sitting there with you in your quarterly review. However, there's 5 or 6 of us putting up together all that prep work and spitballing ideas behind the scenes. Or if somebody called in and needs something, anybody here can take care of it.
I'd say that makes us somewhat unique in that.
Yeah, I would think.
I mean, over the last, it's probably been 12 months, I've done a few speaking engagements and consulting in terms of practice management and succession planning on our side of the business. And, one of the main questions I get is, well, how do you hand off clients? I'm not handing off clients. They're firm clients that we're all contributing to. And every one of us has been a part of it since day one. And like you said, if a client or calls in, no matter who picks up that phone, they're going to be able to help them and address it. If they don't have the answer, they can get it. And the client on the other end of that phone is 100% confident that will happen.
Right.
And I really love that approach. I want everybody involved. I want them to know, whether it's behind the scenes or wherever, who they're working with. Know us as people. But yeah, that's the number one question I get is they see it as, well, I'm gonna hand off this client. No, we're firm client. They're Creative Wealth Management's clients. We all hold those very dearly
Yeah.
in those relationships.
Yeah, it's great for the client coming in and knowing that, hey, you've got not just one person, but the whole team. They're supporting you. And then great, from our side too, because we want everybody here to have the full context around a client situation, right? So that if a situation pops up and for whatever reason, they're the one that has to solve that problem, they already have the context for that client situation in life. It's not a stranger that maybe they've only seen a name, right? Or they
Correct.
maybe have only seen an account statement. They don't know that person, right? And that I think that all of that just snowballs in a positive way and will continue to snowball, right?
Yes.
As these relationships continue to develop. Um, well, kind of want to change gears a little bit here. We'll go back to the kind of client-facing side, and I want to describe, what does the client relationship look like from start to finish? Well, I guess no finish, right? But from start to ongoing with us, right? So if you're a brand new person walking in the Creative Wealth Management doors for the first time, let's say you've been referred by your neighbor, Jim Bob, who has worked with us for a number
Jim
of
Bob,
years.
right?
Jim Bob is my favorite guy, and they're coming in. So from your perspective, and then I'll give you my perspective on those.
Yeah, mine probably has evolved a little bit as well, not being in the day to day all the time. But when someone comes in, I think the number one priority is start to get to know them.
Yeah.
Even before, a client will bring in statements and things like that. And I really don't even want to see them yet. I need to know the person or the couple or the family first. Why are you here? What are you looking to accomplish? And tell me about yourself. What do you value? What's important to you in life? Tell me about your family, things like that. And I really want to get them to know them on that aspect and give them the opportunity to ask us those questions as well. And from that, assuming that's not a long conversation or however long that takes, we really like to dig in then on what are those specific goals? Where do you sit now? And what are you trying to get to? And what's the biggest stressors? Um, Numbers on paper, returns, all that stuff, it's still on paper. I really like to take into account, how does it impact your life, right? One of our goals is for a client, especially if they retire, to live stress-free and not worry about things. And that may look different for each client. So in that process, we need to identify what are those stressors, what's important. For some, maybe it's a high return. Well, why do we need that high return? And really get to the core of it and what they're trying to accomplish. So that's the process in terms of when I'm meeting with clients. I want to get to know them, find out what their goals are and why they are their goals in there specifically, what's important to them, and not what the end looks like, but throughout this process, how can we alleviate that stress or alleviate that problem that you see now on that?
Yeah. I might get a little bit more detail with my answer here on
Go
this
for it.
process. It starts from start to finish. So if somebody were referred in, um, clients could expect to, speak with one of our talented staff members, or perhaps even myself if they called in to schedule. And the team here has done a great job, Lexi, specifically on finding some technology that has made that scheduling process a lot easier for us and for clients. So we want to make that part of the process as smooth as possible, because it can be difficult to find the correct day and time to get somebody in here. But once we get, that date and time established, um, they're welcomed in by our, like I said, fabulous team. And that conversation, like you said, when we first sit down, not necessarily about numbers, but what kind of person they are, and generally, what are you trying to accomplish, right? What's the overall objective here? Some people, you're right, it is the investment returns. And some people it's, hey, I want to retire and just make sure I'm not gonna have to survive on peanut butter and jelly, pork and beans.
Right.
Some people are concerned about, medical expenses down the road. Some people have got 50 things going on. Maybe they've got an older parent that's gone through a situation, or maybe they've got, unfortunately, a child going through a situation. Um, once we have that conversation and figure out, right, are we going to mesh? Then perhaps we can start talking numbers and figuring out what type of relationship we're going to have moving forward. Because we've got a couple different ways to engage us, depending on the complexity of a client's needs, whether they're a business owner with 50 million things going on, whether it's a family that's just about to retire, maybe it's somebody that's in their 30s or 40s that they're just getting going in their professional career and looking for somebody to engage on a semi-regular basis. And then that's where we really step up after that. Once that decision is made that we're going to engage, I think that's where everybody here turns on a specific gear, right? Or changes into that gear on, whatever that client's objectives are, figuring out what's the most important thing that we need to tackle first, getting after it, and then going down that list
Mm.
with a certain intensity and a certain level of frequency with our communications, and jumping on things before there's any type of lag or gap, right? On that side, there's, when a client comes on board, regardless if they have a billion things going on or not, we're going to talk to them quite a bit that first year, right? It is a very intensive first year for the majority of our new clients, just because there's usually a bunch of gaps in their general situation that need to be closed, or they might have a time-sensitive situation going on, whatever it is. We do not want to dilly-dally around and delay.
And a lot of that has to do with not just the coordination, but the implementation of things. And we take pride in that and how our relationships are set up. And once a client engages, it's not going to be, hey, this is what you need to do. We're going to make sure you get it done, whether it's
done the right way
with your attorney and the estate planning and the accounts are put in the correct place and titled, with your CPA to make certain changes on your taxes, whatever it is, we're going to get it implemented, because I know here there's a to-do list or button in their file to be checked until that's done.
Yeah, absolutely. And some people may think, well, like, we're going to stay on top of people. Like, if they're going to engage us, especially at a concierge level of a relationship with us, and our job is to make sure you get all of these gaps closed, right? Or whatever the objective is, business succession planning, implementing a new retirement plan for the business, getting insurance put in place, whatever it is, we're going to make sure you get it done. That's what they're hiring us to do.
That is correct.
Right? We want to be friends with you, but you're not hiring us to be your friend.
Right.
Right? That's part of it. That's just the bonus that comes with it. We're going to sit there and we're going to stay on top of you to make sure these things get done. Because if you do not get them done and you do not have somebody in your corner pushing you, that's where you start to hear about these horror stories. Or that's, quite often you're not necessarily leaving yourself. You are leaving yourself in a worse position, but you're leaving the ones you care about in a worse position.
That's true.
So, and we all need that push in life, right? Regardless. I know I certainly do. And we all need somebody in that corner. We're that team in these families' corners, making sure they get it done.
Occasionally deliver news that, no, this is not possible to do this.
Which is never fun, but necessary.
It is. Yes, you are correct. Sometimes it's hard to deliver that news, or to say, hey, your current spending behavior is going to result into you running out of money.
Which is probably the most, unfortunately, common, I'd say, bad news that we give, has to do with spending behavior, which at the surface seems like a very easy fix, right? If you just boil it down, but we're humans, so it's
Right.
it is certainly not easy to just tell somebody they have to either cut back their lifestyle or work for X amount more years. Oftentimes, how those equations shake out too. People think that working X amount more years is going to solve the problem, and maybe it will, but most of the time that it's generally reducing the spending.
Correct.
Really, that can solve a lot of problems for anybody.
It can, and most of the time, it's not that, well, it could be spending too much. It's that they don't know how much they're spending, which results in, well, I don't know, so I'm just going to go ahead and spend it anyway.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into the word budget is not a dirty word. It is a word of freedom where you know what your fixed expenses are, you know what you can spend above that in discretionary spending. That creates a level of freedom, especially in retirement, to know, okay, I can spend X, and you can enjoy those things that you want to do in your lifestyle without the stress of, am I spending too much?
Well, and here, not to get not really off on a tangent here with budget and spending, but a lot of people too, they might say, oh, I only spend $5,000 or $6,000 a month, right? Which sounds pretty standard for living expenses. And they'll try to do their retirement calculations based on that, but they're not factoring in the $10,000 worth of vacations they take each year, or the $5,000 worth of artwork they buy each year, or the new vehicle they get every year that's 50,000, or every other year that's $50,000, whatever that looks like as well. So
that's why it's important that we pull those details as much as possible. And sometimes that process up front, like you said, is very intensive in the first year.
yeah,
It is critical to
correct.
have that information.
Well, we need to know too what kind of person this is,
Mhm.
right? Where are they potentially likely to have a lapse in their spending at some point? Were they that type of person at all? Right? Maybe it's somebody that is so worried about spending and they could spend more. Right? We're going to have to approach that conversation quite a bit different, and maybe encourage them to, hey, you do have a little bit more freedom to enjoy life. Obviously within reason. Or the other side of the spectrum where it's like, hey, I know you're asking about, hey, can we make this distribution rate possible? Yes, I guess it's possible, but I wouldn't say it's a smart thing to do. If we don't have the full context, because we were super intensive that first year, you might just not know that,
Yeah.
right?
And it's more than numbers too. I can think of examples that a household or a client financially on paper can live the lifestyle that they want for the remainder of their lives, no matter how old they are, and still have tons of cushion there and flexibility, but not be ready to retire.
Yeah,
And I think that's important to dig deep. And I think I see oftentimes that's missed outside of us, or I hear it. Numbers on paper, yes, I can retire, but are you ready to retire? And what I mean by that is, are you prepared for this next phase? And that can be scary, especially for someone who's given 40 or 50 years of their life to a company, poured their heart and soul into it, find part of their identity into it. And now that's going to be gone. Yeah, who doesn't want to be, have the financial freedom? But that's hard part for us mentally to
yeah,
make that transition. And so I think it's important to dig deep and prepare for that and have a plan on that side of things. What are you going to do?
yeah,
Right? Is your plan just to sit on the front porch and look at nature? Most of our clients, that's a no,
right,
right? They're active. They want to be involved. They want to be productive. So we have to have a plan for that second phase that isn't necessarily financial.
yeah,
Am I going to volunteer? Am I going to go back and contract with the company that I left? Am I going to work part-time? How am I going to find fulfillment in this second phase? And that is a scary thing.
yeah. I've seen more than I ever would have thought. How many end up coming back to work part time in some
Mhm.
capacity for the company they worked, right? Because that's just maybe what they know. Um, but the most successful retirees are the ones that are doing something, right, immediately after. It is very problematic if somebody does not have a game plan in place for what they're going to do with their time, right?
Correct.
And especially if they've obviously done something right, they've built up enough, wealth to be able to make that decision at all. They're obviously an intelligent person
Hmm.
and capable of doing things. To go to nothing,
Hmm.
right? Having no game plan, but that's very rare. I
And
think, especially the clients that we have, because we've got a
right.
group of like-minded individuals. It's very rare that we see somebody come in that, retires, does absolutely nothing, and then deteriorates. I don't think that's a
No,
once in
but
a while situation.
even with a plan, that decision's still tough,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You've gone to work, same spot, excelled at it, made huge impacts of whatever that profession is in the community or whatever it is they do. And now all of a sudden, not doing that anymore.
yeah.
It's big.
That is big. That is big.
So I think those things need to be addressed above and beyond the numbers. You hear me oftentimes in appointments. whether we're comparing interest rates, do you pay off this loan or mortgage, and then what's the rate here? All those numbers on paper have a spread to them. But
Mm,
what we want clients to realize is, what's your peace of mind worth? The easiest example is paying off a low interest mortgage,
mhm.
right? I'm
Yeah.
very anti debt on things. I think that I put a very high value on peace of mind and knowing that I don't
Yep.
owe anything to anyone. So it doesn't matter to me what the interest rate is on that mortgage. And so that's just one specific example. That another example, we know what the market has returned since it started, right? And I won't get into specific rates, but that the probability going forward that it is very similar to that. You can look at historic trends and say, yeah, it's probably going to do that. But does that mean someone who's ultra conservative and they're not going to touch the money for 20 years should be 100% aggressive? No, they will lose sleep every single night.
Yeah.
So what's that peace of mind worth? And then if you just look at the numbers and you say, well, if you're ultra conservative, you're going to return this much less over that 20-year period. That amount that's less is what their peace of mind is worth.
Yeah.
To be able to sleep, to be comfortable, to be able to interact well with their spouse and not be stressed. People don't assign enough value to that.
I mean, there's a mathematical answer to anything we do, and then there's a human answer, and it's never one or the other. It's a combination of both. The risk exposure thing you just mentioned is huge. We're definitely not the most aggressive firm in terms of our general investment philosophy at all. But it's a lot. Comfort and flexibility are are huge, but we've got to get you to a point where you understand what's going on before you crank up that risk. I think that's super common out. And what I've seen clients coming in with statements is that if you fall in XYZ age group, you're an XYZ allocation, regardless of that person, what they can tolerate. I had
Mm-hmm.
somebody in um, late spring, right, that came in with showing me the statements from before, and they just put her in a boilerplate equity exposure allocation that wasn't super aggressive, but was definitely too aggressive for her. And as a result, got razzled and pulled out of the market.
And
Right?
that's the bad thing, because you'll make a decision based on a short time period if you're not in the correct
Exactly.
risk
When
exposure.
that person could have been just pulled back and had very boring conservative allocation, gotten used to the bumps of the market, started to understand, started to learn. You get past that, you watch. I always tell people, I want you to watch your account, this allocation. I want you to see how it operates in an up market and a down market
Mm-hmm.
before we make any wild changes. Right? I need you to see how it's going to react. I want you to turn on the news and a lot of green or a lot of red, have a decent idea of what your account's going to do before we start doing anything spicy or pulling it back on us.
That goes back to when you said a new household or clients come on, that we see them and talk to them so much in the first year and interact. You can't figure those things out on a risk survey in one appointment or even two appointments. You've got to understand them.
Yeah.
And you've got to do life together. You've got to know other aspects so that we can accurately gauge what the risk level should be,
Right.
and not just off a
It's those
survey.
conversations, and it's got to be
Yes.
intuitive. Talk to somebody on the phone when the market's an extreme up or extreme down, right? If you're not talking with them or meeting with them regularly, you're not going to be able to pick up on those cues of how they're feeling, how
Mhm.
they're doing, how they're reacting, maybe what they're not specifically telling you, but you could tell via the strain in their voice or the excitement in their voice, how they feel about a certain market condition up or down. And that's how I think, we're going really off in left field here, but how we,
Right.
helps us pinpoint allocations for clients. And they say we're going to do things in a pretty boring manner before we do anything spicy for these clients. And none of that is possible if we're not having a very intensive first year.
100%. Well, we've covered a lot today here on this initial,
Sure.
a lot of professional things as
Yeah.
well, and learning about Ben. I want to go back to this stinking Cowboys story that Tristan
Lord.
mentioned. So some of you out there have heard this story, but I'm a big Philadelphia Eagles fan, Philadelphia Phillies fan, and our most hated team out there is the Dallas Cowboys, especially growing up around here. So Tristan, you came on when? 17?
September of 2018.
September of 2018. So I knew Tristan when he was little, as a kid, knew his parents, happened to bump into your parents at a CVS in Georgetown one day, Walgreens, and said hello. They were in their vehicle, asked how you were doing. They said you graduated college and were working for
Affleck.
Aflac, but he
Yeah.
wanted to be in the financial industry. And I said, hey, have him give me a call next time he's down. I'm looking for a number two guy or gal. Love to meet with him. We met over July 4th week.
Yeah, something like that. I made the drive down because I was still living north of Pittsburgh. Yeah, I drove. Yeah, because it was definitely some type of. It might have been sooner than that because I would have had to spend the multiple months, 2 months preparing for the gig,
Yeah,
perhaps.
unwinding. Maybe it was a little bit earlier in July. But anyway, you ended up coming on September of 18. We were in the old office across the hall,
Yeah,
the smaller office. So that's September of 18. We moved into this one January 1.
yeah, yeah. Because over the holidays we started.
Over the holidays, we started. And your office at that time was where Carol is now.
Yeah,
And it has glass windows in the door, and it's on the way to the conference room. And one morning, shortly thereafter, we moved. I walked by and I look over, and then I stopped in my tracks. I saw a Dallas Cowboys coffee mug sitting on this desk. And I couldn't believe my eyes. Turned around and went back in, and I was like, what the heck is that? And Tristan said, go ahead. You remember what you said?
no, not specifically.
He said, I figured I'm here long enough you wouldn't fire me for this, so I brought it out. And that's how I found out I hired a Dallas Cowboys fan.
Yeah, and keep that. Sometimes I have to keep that closeted information, depending on the group I'm with. Yeah.
Well, I'd say this. You set a pretty high standard for Dallas Cowboy fans.
Well, thank you. I've been through a lot of pain and suffering to build me into the man that I am today, the Dallas Cowboys man. I was born 2 months after their last Super Bowl win. They won the Super Bowl February '96, April '96. I came along.
I've suffered many games and years of the Cowboys beating the Eagles.
Yeah, but you've gotten to see some Super Bowls now.
I have. Finally.
But I'm numb as a Cowboys fan because my grandfather,
diehard Eagles fan.
Diehard. From the time I could
I like that
understand
man.
English language, there's nothing I hadn't heard in terms of insults to the Cowboys. Right? He didn't care how old I was. It was coming at me. So there's, I've built up a pretty thick skin.
Good.
At this point.
I don't get on you too bad for the Cowboys.
No.
So, because the Eagles are good now. You don't have to.
Yeah,
they just speak for them.
This Sunday at 4:30, Fox or CBS, do you know? Yeah.
Well, we hope everybody's gotten a lot out of this today on our discussions. We want to keep these casual. We'd love for you to reach out and put out any questions or topics that you want to discuss, but we want to continue this on probably once or twice a month. What's our schedule going to be like for this, Lexi?
Probably once or twice.
Once or twice a month, and we'll see how it goes. But we want to hear from you. What do you want to learn about? What do you want us to talk about? What do you want to know about us? And it doesn't necessarily have to be financial. You want to know how Ben's growing? We'll answer that. Yeah. So thank you for tuning in on behalf of Tristan and Lexi and the rest of the team here at Creative Wealth Management. We'll see you next time.
See ya.